This is Somaliland, a country not officially recognised by any other nation in Africa or the international community. Yet Somaliland has a version of democracy, in a region synonymous with anarchy, terrorism and piracy. In November 2012, in the midst of an election, a small crew went to Somaliland to see how this regional exception succeeds. Through the stories of those trying to make democracy work.
Could not take the chance jeopardizing people's life.
Democracy-gu qoladaasi way iska sheegtaan laakiin democracy-gu Somaliland buu yahay.
The underdevelopment, poverty and volatility of the region means Somaliland's peace remains fragile, and during the tense days around the election, the fight for the country's survival is never far away.
People were calling me today, threatening me. After this election, we'll send police to them. I'll arrest them.
With the challenges it faces and its proximity to chaos, Somaliland has become an experiment to see if democracy can function in the developing world. Somaliland is located on the Horn of Africa, a region not noted for its free and fair elections. But Somaliland has become rather accustomed to them, having held 6 peaceful votes to date, a record that puts the country amongst the most established democracies in Africa. Despite that, there is still every chance the next one could be Somaliland's last. This election will produce 2 outcomes. Firstly, it decides on councillors, and in that way is a local election. But it's also a national election, as it determines which 3 parties out of the 7 in contention can run candidates for the presidency. Only 3 parties that win the largest numbers of votes in the local election, in the most regions across the country, can become the national parties.
intaas oo rulba isdiiwaan gelisay oo tartamaan dadku u tartamaan ambishikooda siyaasadeed si aan saaxadu u noqon saaxa cabursan oo ay u waayaan awood ay ku helaan ama ku cabiraan awood rabitaankooda siyaasadeed.
This election is organised by an independent body called the National Electoral Commission. It's responsible for keeping this process fair and peaceful, and the man in charge is Ali Khader. 2 years ago, Ali was a successful investment banker in Toronto, but he's now part of a wave of people coming back to contribute to the democracy in Somaliland.
I made a sacrifice for this country, wallahi.
Ali's role makes him the central figure orchestrating this election nationwide. We're going to follow him during the course of the process to see the challenges and difficulties the country faces. Ali and his team are currently shipping out the remaining ballot boxes to the polling stations in time for the election. But a large part of that preparation in a new democracy is educational. This system of governance is new in the region and has to be nurtured as it develops.
Show the illustration.
Illustration, how the people vote. We have to teach the people. We have to show how.
This is the right one.
Yeah, you can you read Somali, Mohammed?
صح صح غلط.
Exactly, yeah.
So far, so good. We are on the timetable.
Okay.
So if once we start, we know it starts smoothly, inshallah. God willing.
Somaliland is in one of the most daunting regions in the world to host an election. Neighbouring Somalia is home to Al-Shabaab, Islamic extremists who were against democracy, and in 2009 bombed the presidential palace in Somaliland's capital. In 1960, Somaliland was granted its independence from Britain. In the same year, it joined with Italian Somalia to form the Somali Republic. Democratic government ended in 1969 after a military coup by Siad Barre. After decades of tensions, the country descended into civil war. By 1991, the rebel army, known as the Somaliland National Movement, declared the territory, which was British Somaliland, independent. One of those who led the rebels during the civil war was Musa Bihi. It was his rebel army that gave power to a civilian government when the conflict was over. Now, as a civilian, Musa is the chairman of the ruling party, Kulmiya. In 2010, Mohamed Silanyo, leader of Kulmiya, became the third president of Somaliland, after 19 years in opposition.
waxaa kala dirayaa dhammaan shaqaalihii goobaha tegi lahaa body agents should go all the police stations all the regions for the next 24 hours dhibaatooyin badan waxaa laba dhibaato ugu weyn mid waa ka darayaa cabsida siiba meelaha xuduudada amaadka in qoryaba laga soo galo laga yaabo laakiin inamada hadiiba ay meesha khalkhal geliyo oo nin doonayo fadhiyo guriyo ninka tagay meel fogow adiga iyo sanduuq waa isku xidhantii haddii lagu waayo meesha iyo haddii la xabadinayo iyo haddii la buraynayo adiga sanduuqaasi oo gacantaada ka baxma halku yaanu la joogo laakiin waxaa la rabaa inay meesha waxa ka dhaca waxaan ku dadaalay sanduuqa inaan mar qura indhaha waxa gelayo waxa ka soo baxay waayo dalka dhamma khalkhalka iyo nabadgelyada mid uu ku galaya warqadaada waa ka murashaxa ku dhacaya ama uu soo baxay waa ka dawladii kulmiye laga adkaanaya ama ay ku adkaanayso waa sanduuqa ay raad wadaayaysa kulay marka taana ka calaamatan aad iyo aad u mahadsantiin hawl wanaagsan soo noqod wanaagsan iyo guud loo
Away from the Kulmiya offices, Haxor, one of the newly established parties, is holding a rally.
هلا بدون ما نقص قبلنا وقامينا ونجاهد ودلك وسوا هالجبي بدلك وح الله يروح الدم بيو كل يوم بتجتهد مجاهد حسن عيسى الدم بيو كل يوم بتجرو ما عايزين حق السوري حق
أنا مدينين كمان سبعة قرن لبعض قرن عدنيا.
During the presidential election in 2010, international donors paid for the voter registration process so that people were individually linked to a polling station and checked off when they cast their vote. This time round, that funding has been cut, meaning the only defence the National Electoral Commission has against people voting multiple times is indelible ink. As a precaution to prevent electoral fraud and terrorism, the Electoral Commission has introduced a traffic ban on election day, though special car plate exemptions are available. With terrorists using car bombs and political parties trucking voters from station to station in the absence of voter registration, it's hoped that limiting movement will make the election safer and fairer. But since only Ali can allow an exemption, there is now a last-minute rush from those looking to secure a car plate in time for the election day.
xusbiyada baa lagu dhibin baleedyada waxa ku soo diray Maxamed Abdi ku soo diray warqada oo soo saacad dabadooda soo war kale baciida baati dadka soo diray what the fuck is this you are not controlling anybody we are good to hold هذا ما حد يقول لي يعني شغله تقصو انتوا بس اوسكار قبل سنه وحسبيدي وريا وشد دموينكا يلا با فرويني سووناي تدوبدا كليوي حسبيده كان لو شيء
With the security services failing to restrict access to the office, things are becoming increasingly chaotic. As the situation worsens, Ali decides to retreat to another route. The election is also the cause of last-minute preparations at the Domestic Observers HQ. The Domestic Observers are responsible for refereeing proceedings on polling day.
This election is very sensitive, and I think it's because of the 10 years political cycle will start the day of the election, and the voters will determine the 10 years political parties of Somaliland. So this election, I think, is different from all elections. High competitive of political parties, at least 2,000 and above candidates of local government. So there's a lot of interest in districts, in the regions.
As a final plea to the country to play an active role in ensuring the election is free and fair, the Domestic Observers have organised a press conference.
doorashadan aynu ka rajeynayna inay tahay inay nabadgelyo ugu dhacdo chapter cusubna runtii inoo furmi doono markii doorashadaas inay dhacdo hadii la yiraahdo waxaan xoojinayaa dhiirigelinta asxaabta iga horeysa ay dhiirigelinayso runtii qarankani cadow badan buu leeyahay inna badan baa inay eegaya adduunka inay eegaya dimuqraadiyad baynu qaadanay aynu dhibaatooyin badan kala kulanay aynu u cadeyno ummadda iyo adduunka inaynu ka bixi karno tan iyo mid ka adag sidii aynu doorashadii madaxtooyada u soo wada baxnay ee nabadgelyada aynu ugu dhacday ummadana waxaan jeclaan lahaa booliiskeenu meel walba ma gaari karaa ciidankeenu inay nabadgelyada iyo gacantooda ku qabtaan sidii doorashooyinka horeba ay ku qabteen waana mahadsantiin intaas aan kaga baxay.
Somaliland remains an unrecognised country after over 20 years of de facto independence. Whatever the reasons may be, Somaliland has been left to its own devices and has had to develop by itself.
meel cidla dalbiga laga dhiso waxaa loo yeelay dadka ummadda u taliya baamushtaru traditional ama madax dhaqameed aqoon-yahan siyaasi taliyaasha ciidamada SNM waxaana loo socon marba in loo sii guuro xagga dimuqraadiyadda casriga oo la yareeyo ta qabaa'ilka iyo reeraha ku dhisan.
One of the other political associations looking to secure its status as a constitutional party is UID. The oldest party in Somaliland, it's hoping to gather momentum in this election, ready for the next presidential vote.
waxaan xusbi hadda jaaniskiisa taagan yahay markaa waxaan jeclahay biidnaahi kariim inaanu insha allah tacaala tan ku soo bixi doono xusbiga u ballaaran ku soo bixi doono insha allah tacaala kalajiri waxa weeye lacagtan soo saarnay anoo marka u horeysa full ma sameyno welfare buuxa ingiriis oo kale waad ogtahay naga bilaabeen bishii August aan ka qayb galnay shirkii Cape Town Congress-ka 25 Socialist Internationalist fadhiga way ka qayb galnay ilaa 120 xusbi ka soo qayb galay arkaan magaciisa Soomaaliya ka qayb galay dadkii aad iyo aad bay taasi niyadood kor u qaaday waxay arkeen waxay xusbi qadiyadda Somaliland international stage international forums gaarsiinaya ay arkeen kii mataqaanay dawaad loom way inuu heshiis fair election free way laakiin fair election it's a long way to go taas wanaga maqan tahay waxa noo keenay wax badan oo dalka aan awoodi lahayn registration kama jiro.
How far Somaliland has to go before having a truly fit-for-purpose voter registration process can be seen at the Electoral Commission's office, with Ali becoming swamped by requests for the traffic ban exempting car plates in the hours before polling day. Ali's office has now descended into chaos, as the security staff assigned have left their posts. Without security assistance, Ali tries his best to calm things down. Eventually, the security forces return and have to use force to dispel a situation which was created by their absence.
Yeah, it's still chaotic, but much better than before.
What was going on here? What was the cause of this?
This thing?
Yeah.
Everybody wants that plate so they can move around tomorrow. So ministers, business people, what have you, everyone came there to take advantage of that. And if we give those plates, we're afraid that they will use it for campaigning.
Because at the moment, they're not allowed to campaign tomorrow night.
Yeah, they're not allowed to.
They're not allowed to use the car.
Yeah, but they're not allowed campaigning publicly. But they might move it from one place, or they'll move people, or get access to workers there.
They pay for money.
Yeah, try to bribe.
To buy the food. Yeah.
So there are a lot of things. And the other thing is, once you are fair to everyone and you give them, you allocate equal share, you cannot give someone an extra, treatment, or what do you call it? Preference.
weliba haddaan lana ictiraaf lahaa oo dhaqaalo fiican heli lahayn dhaqaalo heliyaan Uganda oo kale hesho Tanzania hesho haddaan heli lahayn waxaan soo bixi lahayn one of the best democratic nation in whole of Africa ayaan soo bixi lahayn.
Although recognition would help Somaliland, it's important to understand that across Africa and the developing world, elections often bring even long-established countries to their knees, as has been the case recently in Kenya and Zimbabwe.
حاجة واحدة حاجة جيبوتي is not a democratic nation. Ethiopia traditionally never been democratic. حاجة واحدة يمن عرب لو واحد كنت جنا دول لانه ديمقراطية لبا علا كلمة الديمقراطية ما كنا تقول شوك ما كان حاجة قولي واحد نجا صعطة undermining مرة صعطة يا حاسدين يا نجا صعطة.
In the capital, Hargeisa, ballot trucks need to be delivered to the polling stations in time for the morning. Progress has ground to a halt as the Electoral Commission officials, police and army argue about who is responsible for the dispatch of the trucks. It has become clear that the police and army have been assigned to the wrong trucks. Now, Ali has an angry police commandant and a shortage of guards.
ساعات صدوا على تهادون من كاين أنا المعنى الله يبغى أنا ما هي لها تنرات هذا قايل لي سالم يعني هذا قايل لي يا نما كان قالت كان نما كان على ويدي قالت كي نجي لو شقينا هينا مو فون شقينا هينا اسمع أنا تو اللي نما كي نوبيات أسكت بدي أنا تيونو مختك نيجي بالتنبه إلا ما أنت أنا ما هي دي كان شقدين أبو ولا هلا كي المحزارية ميليتري كان البوليس مصاري باورد هل كاسي تاعنا هذا نانو يمني أنا هلكا كوتشلو حتى تسوي شقدين دي ما هذا أول ما هذه هاي هو يديدين يا ديدي هو كل ميليتري كم يعني هرت هذا يقول عاي ميليتري بوليس كده ونور هاي بوليس كله ما هذا.
Despite fled tempers, action is taken to call in the necessary police officers to escort the disputed trucks.
محمودو وأكو مقلي ما هذه مقلي وحكوني لبا باورة كودبورة
وبوليس
وبليس كو قرية يبقى الحرق
بوليس كده ما تشوفه ماشي
دي واحد دوني دك بليس راعة
جود انت عشان كده دوني
دي نخسوايا هل كانوا اللي ولا تاجي وحلا وحنا ورسكون على شيء
Ali finally dispatches the trucks for Kodbur, but he's still struggling to make the different parties work together to finish the night's work.
يوسف يا علي ودقيسة يوسف مقال listen إنا فضلوا عن هذا أنتي نقدر ننسى بوريس كنوجا كينيا أنتي نو ديار جريا With time pressing, Ali is clearly frustrated by the bickering of the security forces.
They don't even go on the same track together.
Why?
The military thinks they're superior. They think the police are always with civilians and they're not man enough to fight. Attitude problem. You know, a lot of people, they don't have organizational skills. So everything is mess, right?
Yeah.
You ask them to do something, the person goes something else. They do something else. So you have to, it's like keeping the children in the kindergarten. I swear to God. They're running around. It's crazy.
The nature of Somaliland's political experiment often comes with considerable personal risk to those involved.
People were calling me today, threatening me. I don't know them. They're harassing me. You know, but I saved their number, so after this election, I'll send police to them. I'll arrest them.
Having settled the situation outside, Ali has to return to his office to continue allocating the remaining car plates.
شركة واضحة أعتبر SBS برجسافة شيء برجسافة شيء أنا بس إنه بعض العيش كثير منه مسكين أنا أبغى مسكين بأنا
Ali has just been told that an official has gone missing with 31 car plates meant for the media.
We have to find him. فوايد اللي قد كوبي صدق حبوا يلا سيري إبراهيم كمان إبراهيم سكيت ده هو بحي حبوت شو قوله يعني مش كنت اللي كان صوته إيه مكان اللي كدونه واحد بقى هتلو إبراهيم بانسو بريد كريني أنتي بس بريد كريني نبقى كوبي صدق اللون دي غير مسؤول فاين الكوي فيه ولا عشان يحتل الثاني ما حبتها تاني أنا شكرا بس حفلت في مين يا قبل ما قبل مين هالهلينا يا مين حفلت هلينا
Along with his other worries, Ali is having to contend with his staff losing focus as it gets late.
وأنا سيرة يا دوي سوق ما بعرف تدرتين ساعة قالوا تكتان يد الستاف بعرف تلقي تاجي الستاف ما أنا دونية ما أنا عسكري ما أنا عسكري ما أنا دونية دي تيجي وتني إذا كم سكتنا كوميشنير كعرّي رنجرني مش فدي أنا سمر كيشوا سبحان الله بيرد ضد بفوتيني هو يرد تيجي عسكرته عن نوتي مع ده ضد كله هذا إذا كروح إنه هلسة هذا سوق وحتى الستاف كي ماشى سبب كده يش
As Ali resolves one issue, another arises. It has been discovered that fake car plate permits have been made for use on polling day. Ali must act immediately to resolve the problem in time.
بليدو inta halka lagu soo sameystay baala yareero sticker la soo sameystay lagu dul dejinayo bleedadii baabuurta oo ilaa 1500 magaalada la soo galay baa nolosha booliska la garay.
By the end of the evening, it's obvious the night's problems are going to spill over into polling day. Before Ali leaves, he checks in with the regional commissioners.
mayorkiina waa isfahanteen oo khaladkii laga dhaadhiciyo saxweeyana waa la soo hadlaya mayorka dimeesha dejiinayo doorashadani hadday naga xumaato waxaynu koob ilaa tag soo shaqeynaa baba
labaatan sano ka hor 1991kii markii dib loogu soo noqday halkan magaaladani zero bay ahayd from scratch zero bay dadka bilaabeen dhisme ma jirin guri keliya oo dhisan ma jirin waxaa adlarkasa xitaa dhakhtarada iyo hospitaliska iyo iskuulladu dhammaantood zero bay ahayd dhulkay yaaleen ka ugu roon baa gidaarku sii taagnaa jingada dushii gidaaradu ay duusanayeen dadka qaarkood ba waxay yidhaahdaan Hargeysa waxay ahayd in aan la dhisin Hiroshima, like Hiroshima, it was like Hiroshima.
Anarchy in the rest of Somalia has led to some rather more well-known problems that Somaliland has had to deal with.
aan ku jirna centerkii burcadbadeeda ayaanu la jaarnay marka runtii dhibta weyn bay nagu hayaan haddii umana yaraysano waxaanu ka qaban karno waanu ka qabanaa marka anagu iminka intaanu ku Italiya waxa weeyaan in aanu borderkii bay noo joogaanay inaanu jeegarayno oo aanu ku joojino halkaasi.
With the country's security resources already stretched by international threats, there is a shortfall of security staff covering the election.
dawladdu runtii lacag badan ma haysato dakhligana soo galay oo kooban yahay laakiin waxaan ku faraxsanahay inay dadweynuhu lacag fiican ay sameeyeen profit sameeyeen iyagu heer gaareen marka waxa soo dhan ay dadku gaareen dawladda ku faanaysa way dawladdu hadayna nabadgelyada sugin hadaan dawladnimada la sugin hadaan xuduud hadaan dadka la caawin hadaan loo sahlin hadaan nidaamkii dawladnimo aan la dhisin ma suura galan waxaasi.
The day of the election is finally here, after months of preparation, campaigning and anticipation. The polling stations open at 7 a.m. to long queues in traffic-free streets. But beyond the pedestrianised buzz is an apprehension that the enthusiasm of the people could turn sour if the day is not managed correctly. The turnout is expected to be over 90%, with anyone over 16 being able to vote. In the capital, there are 175 candidates to choose from, but there can only be 25 elected officials at the end of the day's voting.
waxaan ugu codeeyay Cabdicasiis aadan habane system mujaahidiinta insha Allah bidmillah karimna wuxuu noqon doonaa he will be the one. That's what I hope.
I support place 522. I like it very much because he's a sportsman. He's always helping the poor people, like the people don't have any parents. Okay, already parents died. He helps that people, and I support only that.
waxa weeye maanta doorashadu aad iyo aad baan ugu faraxsannahay dadweynaha reer Hargeysa ama reer Somaliland meel waliba qof waliba aad iyo aad buu ugu faraxsan yahay wuxuu aad ugu faraxsan yahay qof waliba nidaamka ay dawladdu u samaysay nidaamka shakhsiyaddu qalbigiisa uu ka helayo iyo inuu u codeeyo si xorriyada qof waliba qofka uu doonayo waxa weeye dimuqraasigu qoladaasi way iska sheegtaan laakiin dimuqraasigu wuxuu yaallaa Soomaaliya gudaheedu yaallaa Somaliland buu yaallaa awowyada ayaa ku dhaqmi jiray weligood markay shirayaan xitaa gurigiisa markuu joogo ayaa dimuqraasigu ka jira
The election is now well underway, and voters are casting their ballots up and down the country. Back at the Electoral Commission, the elections management is still ongoing, and Ali is back at work with a number of pressing issues to deal with.
Today in the morning, you know what we did? What happened was last night they found out there were some fake blades that resemble to ours, right? So we reached an agreement with the Minister of Interior to halt all the vehicles today, except for international observers, journalists, workers of National Electoral Commission, and security and the police apparatus. However, in this morning, the Minister of Interior and his troops, they stopped even our vehicles. You know, even the what we call polling station workers, they could not reach their destination because they were stopping all the vehicles. So I went there and I disagreed with the minister and the general of the police. So I told them every vehicle is moving. So you have the power to arrest those people who put the fake plates. So thankfully we succeed, and there were few fake plates, few cars with fake plates, but the majority, 95% of the time, they were the plates that we gave to the people. So the thing has moved from that time on. So now things are moving. However, there are, come here, if it's out. There are places, especially in certain areas, where the ballot papers is finishing fast. So we don't know what's going on. 525 ballot papers in one polling station. The polling station opens at 7. By 9:30, if you tell me 525 is gone, that's ridiculous.
Ali has a new problem to cope with. Reports are coming in that are raising suspicions of attempts at vote rigging.
Yeah. I don't understand. It evaporates, I guess. Because I'm going to mail will be لكن ولا مرة يمكن حافظنا ما يمكن أسافر وسوق اللي لا بس أعود في شنطة بقولي سنة لا تقول الله صعد من كل مين. تو حاسكور.
With the shortage of ballot papers, the party leaders are demanding Ali delivers more papers to their supporters' areas. He must remain impartial by ensuring the ballot papers are distributed fairly.
Understand? أنا تايم دين وفر.
أو تلاقي. أنا تلاقي لكن تين أو أكيد. كدوم. ولي يا الله ميلان شنو بقول أو ورهود. 90 كان كلوري ورهود أنا قدام عليه. وفينومينا نقص. Something is not right. لكن تضبط يوانو بلونه. أما تضبط يروح على ما بيلعبه. سجال كي يبرد شنطة بقولي سنة لا تقول قدام عليه. Come on.
Though precautions have been taken to limit the impact of the absence of a voter register, it is apparent that multiple voting is taking place. The resulting shortage of ballot papers presents a potential crisis, as the threat of people missing out on voting could cause rioting.
لكن حافظها قاركود واحد مدة حافظ كليني لو ينتبه صدق ينتبه قوة يقولين ما كبير ساعات سؤال تبغى سؤال اللي وراك وين مالي هو واني هاي ويقول استري بتاعي سوما واي ورميش التبليغ كسورتي ده ما ركتي يعني نيرجيس عبد الرحمن عمر the speaker of the house بيلاندي house of parliament xisbigiisuna waa wadani halkaa tabliiqa kasoo horjeeda wuri ilaa 2,000 qof malaawe joogta askarna waa loo baahan inuu geeyo rabshad baa ka dhici karta.
Alongside the Commission's concern to keep the election to one man, one vote, Somaliland faces broader issues around its democracy. There are sections of society that feel excluded from participating in the political process.
annaga ayaa dadka ururina annaga xusbiga soo saarna annaga ugu badan orodka laakiin xusbiyadu run ahaan Somaliland dumarka ma siiyaan maskabkooda xusbiyadu muraaqibiinta waxa ay ku soo diyaarsadaan reero waxa keentay dimuqraadiyaddii waxay gashay qabiil dimuqraadiyaddii ma Somaliland ba qabiil bay gashay inankii golaha ka soo baxayay waxa la reer hebel inaan keen qof keen baa la reer hebel reer hebel markii la yiraahdo qofka keenso xisbiga hebel wala deegaanka kaaga soo baxay aniga oo gabadhay ma doonayaan nin bay keensanayaan lama oranin deegaan hebel oo inaan keen gobolka Hargeysa intaas oo inaan ka soo baxaan aqoon laguma kala saarin deegaan ahaan gudaha lama oranin laakiin family bay noqotay family-gina wuxuu ku leeyahay inaan halkan adiga ku geynaa inaan bangeysanayo dimuqraadiyad baanu nahay intaas oo doorashaan soo galay Somaliland dimuqraadiyadda Geeska Afrika u horeysaaba كما بيجتا كيس كافريقيا تكرر ديمقراطية الصومالية كتير لكن بدأ نبتة جتا واحد وين أنا كنت مرهان من كانوا ناي الديمقراطية أنت قبيل كوتش تلا نما دورنا يبا ويرهر كي بيقول إنه بتاعين إسكتش وقدو بيرس كاري لكن ده كحسبي أهم كل الحسبية دي هرس وتشري دمر كوك قيمة وياهم كوسير بانو لين هاي ما بدنا كلامو لين هاي أدو على النسي لكن كم كان عسلين وحنا شعلنا لنا نوقف بديو
The call for fairness and inclusivity also comes from the smaller political parties. A central part of Ali's job is reassuring these party leaders that the process is fair.
Is it important to make sure that instead of arguing with each other, they come to you and deal with issues through official avenues? So that's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is. We should. It's a little bit of a civility because we have to respect each other. They know there's a lot of burden on us. There's a lot of workload on us, and we know they are interested in becoming, official parties.
But Ali will never please everybody. And the head of Hacksaw is upset about the cancellation of the vote in a town where he was expecting support. Despite Hacksaw's disappointment, the Electoral Commission claim they make their decisions for good reason.
Erigavo, we cancelled those two places, the disputed area. We did not send ballot papers and ballot boxes. We cancelled. Also, Hudu in Las Anod, we cancelled. Puntland police or military, they were shelling since yesterday to Hudu, right? So we could not take the chance of jeopardizing people's life.
Although tensions between parties and government exist, there has been an attempt in Somaliland to install a political system based on cooperation rather than conflict.
marka waxa nala dhigay mar doorashada maasha la ilaa Ethiopia more than 300 people bay iska dileen opposition kii laga dilay dad badan baa la xidhay markaasaan 2007 ayaan anagoo all party MPs iyo all party leaders oo wada socda ayaa wada tagnay maqanaysaa Horn of Africa soo wareegnay Ethiopia markaan u tagnaa nini opposition party-gii baa tana waa ruling party-gii oo MPyada iyo chairman wada socda waxay ku noqotay something new iyagu isma salaaman we're together waxaan u soconay the cause of Somaliland.
Cooperation between the parties is often impressive. But in the context of a high-pressure election, feelings can boil over. In these instances, the Commission is tasked with calming things down, but stuck in the crossfire, Electoral Commission staff can themselves become the targets of hostility.
ninka iswaaleeyina jabo xaloonsa anagu komishinka doorashooyinka qarankaan u sheeganay wixii dhacay waxay ugu wallahi ugu bilaay waa ka sargareynaya I don't give a damn odayaasha meesha haba u bixinay askari kaliya u tutoon laba askari sidii ma joogaan yalkadeedii hadaba cid u dirta shaqaaleeyna kale qof u dirta hadda odayaasha magaalada noogu yeedha oo u sheeg warinimadiina baan booramaan kan intaasaan idin soo soconay waan soo dhaaran xumaanid la dooni mayno komishinkii baa dushan laga ilaalin laga monitor garanaya haddaanu khalad gallo way ka sal garanaya idinkuna ceeb ay isu keenina annagana hana dulmiina ama hana dhibaataynin oo ku dhig.
Voiding a region's vote is a major decision to make. If the election is to be a true reflection of the public will, Ali's judgment will have to be measured and accurate.
My notifications from the east, and I cancelled during the last presidential election 47,000 votes. Because there was a party staffing, there were misappropriate actions.
The election may have disputes, but there is also enthusiasm and good feeling. Where there is so much to gain and lose, it is little wonder that Ali has his hands full. But it is clear that the people of Somaliland are proud that they've achieved so much against such odds.
waxaanu iska cabcabano aanu yaacno si fiican oo deganaansho oo nabadgelyo ay u socotaa hawsha aadna way qurux badan tahay adigana aniguna waa saas oo kale waan ku faraxsanahay raalli baan ka ahay waan dadaalayaa ilaahayna waxaan ka rajaynayaa inuu nagu guuleeyo
waxa weeyaan runtii doorashadan maanta socotaa waa mid taariikhi weeye waxa weeyaan doorashadan la kala dooranayo ururada ayaa soo kordhiyay in kharash badan aad arkaysid ololeyntii wadiga arkay markii la ololeynay sida ahayd wadiga arkayay in kasto aan cidina ictiraafsanayn haddana dadka markii la yiraahdo waxa weeyaan waa dadka iyagu way soo dhiiranayaan oo dimuqraadiyaddii bay u socdaan intaa waxa isku muujinayaan dimuqraadiyaddii barbarad baanu ku nahay ma qof kastaaba safkii kuyugi qof kastaaba biliis noqday tan aad iyo aad u meeshan garay maanta waxay dadku biliis wada ahaa maxay biliis badan ma wada gaari karto dadkaas oo dhan haddaan dadku xilkasnimo sameeyeen oo dalkiisa meelaha qaarkood oo raageen runtiina wax lagu faano weeyaan model loo noqon karta Afrika.
The polling stations begin to pack up. The closures are met by calm in some places, but anxious tension in others, where people are still looking to cast their votes. Regardless, the day's voting must end and give way to the night's counting. Despite Somaliland's lack of recognition, international observers are monitoring the election to measure how free and fair it really is.
Polling's closing down, counting is starting. Counting in some places started early because they ran out of ballot papers. It's a fairly crucial election for many people, and so I think this explains why it's been very high voting figures, lots of enthusiasm, exuberance, which has spilt over occasionally into the odd skirmish and the police kind of trying to keep order, sometimes by firing their rifles into the air. The other thing is the kind of common Somaliland practice of trying to vote a number of times, whether by scrubbing a finger off or any other kind of method. And it's kind of difficult without a voter registration process to keep that entirely in check. And then there's been some allegations about, government putting supporters to polling stations in lorries. Now all of these remain more or less unproven allegations until we actually sit down with our observers, the domestic observers, who've got a bigger team than us, and at some point we'll make an assessment on whether or not we think it's a free and fair election.
The stakes are very high this time around. The fact that there are two outcomes, not just the candidates who are elected, but the shape of the Somaliland political terrain for the next 10 years, i.e. the parties that will go forward to compete in national elections over the next decade. That's a crucial thing, and I think that point is poorly understood, both locally, by the electorate perhaps, and certainly in the international media. It's been a little bit demoralising that because things are going quite well in Somaliland, the world seems to be by definition less interested in Somaliland. The international media generally seems to prefer a bad news story, that you have to throw in an element of piracy or mention the word Mogadishu or failed state or whatever to get interest in the Somali entity in the international media.
Over at the central Hargeisa polling station, counting is now well underway, watched over by the domestic observers.
The number of observers has been deployed at the polling stations. They have been look at the situation since the morning. So we set up a system of communication that we received in the morning around 15,000 messages from the observers, everywhere, of the country. The district was reported, much and fraud or violence. We did not get that information. But so far we have, that it was a peaceful and it was very critical election. We have that information so far across the observers. Now the few observers has been stopped, look at the counting in Porame, some few police stations in Hargeisa. We got that information that few the domestic observers, stopped, look at the counting, and I think that they have to understand that observers must look at counting in the pilot towers.
The vote count will be the biggest challenge Somaliland faces. A small error could cause violence. Alongside the observers, the government has placed its own staff in polling stations to watch over the count.
waxaan afartii subaxnimo ayaanu halkan nimid imika ahaan waxa aan la bilownay tirintii codadka kulle waqti dheer bay qaadan doontaa awal berigii hore saddex qof ama in ka yar baa la kala saarayay oo saddex xisbi bay ahayd laakiin imika waa toddoba xisbi ama waa toddoba urur waxa la kala saaraya kulle waqti waxaan aaminsanahay inay waqti dheer qaadan doonto muxuu ahaa tirintan oo ay gaari doonto wixii ka dambeeya lagu tababarnimo iyo wixii ka dambeeya ay noqon doonto.
The double and triple check-in proves to be a slow process, but with the diligence from all involved comes the hope that there will be certainty as to the outcome of this election. It's the morning after the election, and Hargeisa is reaccustoming itself to normality. The cars are back on the road, and people have returned to their daily routines. But there are many election hopefuls and their supporters who are still anxiously anticipating the outcome of their campaigns. Inside a hotel in downtown Hargeisa, one tribe is holding a dinner to congratulate some of the tribe's candidates on their campaigns. Though many ran for opposing parties, here they're brought together as kinsmen.
wax badan baa saaran xilkii guud ee magaalada Hargeysa wada saaran xilkii Somaliland ee Soomaalida guud ha ka shaqeysana wada saaran kii qoysku wada saaray tala aad ka midaysato meel ku mar dadkiina la dhaqma ama shaqo jirtaan waxaan oran lahaa inteena kala aan harina ka taagnaan oo gacan siino oo yana oran meesha garano waxba jira waxba ma jiraan meesha dhibaato waa dhibaato meesha waxay leedahay dhibaato xoog badan baa taala oo dadka adag ka wada baahan ee qof walba waxa uu ku murmaayo ee qof walba xaq aan doonayo ayaa la idin wax laga bixi karaa af wanaagsan iyo eedaab iyo dhiga wasaar iyo soo dhabaanay ma laga karaa.
Back at the National Electoral Commission, Ali takes stock.
Are you
happy with the way it went? I'm happy with the outcome and everything, and it was about image. These people they're looking for recognition for 21 years, and this was the turning point. Either would have gone back
we go forward. So with the help of God, we're moving forward, and we had no major casualties, considering we did not have registration cards. Before, people used to vote for the party. This time it was for individuals. The resource we had yesterday, the donors were here, they even admitted they did not pay enough, considering the amount of job we done. The security, there are a lot of issues. I mean, it's a learning process, and lessons learned, we're gonna write a report. So next time, God willingly, it will be smoother than this.
The international observers are holding a press conference to feed back their immediate findings. This press conference is not categorical in declaring a fair election, but goes a long way to legitimising the process. Outside, the head of the domestic observer mission offered his view.
We have a separate mission, the international observers and domestic observers, but we had sharing the information in the previous times and now, and I think we got the information from them that mostly that information we have also same information. We did not see any intimidation, any harassment, any theft, fraud. Only we have seen that some people expected that they make some double voting, and I think that could be one of the expectations when the voter registration has been cancelled.
On the 28th of November, 7 associations competed to become one of the 3 national parties. And 2,368 candidates contested the 350 seats on offer in Somaliland's 21 local governments. To make sure the election was a success, the National Electoral Commission sent out 1,800 members of staff, and the observation organisation sent out 677 observers to every region in the country. The results were delayed, and upon release, disputes erupted when the Electoral Commission announced winners in Hargeisa and then quickly rescinded the announcements and identified different winners after the recounts. This error damaged confidence and led to violent protests. After mediation, the results were accepted by all the parties, except Haxor, who came in 6th with 9% of the vote. Kulmia finished first, with 30% of the vote, retaining their status as a constitutional party. Uid also held on, finishing in 3rd place with 13%. A new party, Wadani, took the other constitutional party position with 20% of the vote. The remaining parties, Umudda, Race, Haxor and Dulson, all won representatives in local government, but failed to qualify for the right to compete in the presidential elections. The absence of voter registration was seen by all to be a disaster, with reported incidents of multiple voting at 158 out of 632 stations. But there were pluses. The number of young people voting shot up, and the number of women representatives increased by 400%.
maanta waxaan joognaa marxalad uu foodkii dhacay ilaa meel tartankii waa meel hoose tegey qabaa'il buu u batay waayo dadka aqoonta leh dimuqraadiyadda garanaya weli way yar yihiin haddana alxamdulilah waanu ka soo dubaalanay kan maanta weli waxaa sii socdaa ma garanaysaa marka food dhaco ciddii dacwoonaysay doodo ay tabanaysaa u jirtaa iyagana si wax loo dhammayn doonaa kuwa nabadgelyo ahoo waxaa la isla mari doonaa maxkamadda
أنا مرة كستوى مرة كستوى يصدق كويس خوي البحيان مرة ولا واحد دتكو فوتين جنين أنا زي tribal line لكن هذا واحد من هذين issues يو مكان زي interest وفوتينيا.
Having finished their work in the election, the domestic observers now gather for a meal and to discuss the country's progress.
system keena inka labada kun iyo labada qofka joogay iyo maanta waxaan karaa macnaha in macnaha isbedel xoog leh uu dhacay hadaba labada kun iyo labadii dadku waxa ma weyfasaneen faali iyo hayn maanta wadanka commitmentka lacagta la bixinayo si loo ordayo hadaba inta kale waxa campaign dhacaya laba group hadana isku dhacay jiraan so dadka ma yiraahdaan qabyaaladii waxa soo bixin
Among those who saw the process as a success was President Solano. having stood in elections during the old Somali administration, then led the conflict to create Somaliland and contested every election until his selection to the presidency in 2010, he was able to put this election's failings into perspective.
dastuurkeedu waa mid dimuqraatiga weeye doorashooyin baa dhaca doorashooyinkaasi gore way leeyihiin sida meel walba ka dhacdaa isqabqabsigooda iyo tartankooda doodooda way leeyihiin laakiin runtii iminka doorashada madaxweynuhu waa dee madaxweynihii labaadee la doorto saddexaadee la doorto doorashadii madaxweynuhu la doortay baarlamaanka waa la doortay marka waa waddanka hadda democratic ah.
In formal democratic terms, Somaliland has done very well, has created institutions, but there's some way to go in terms of freedom of the press, independence of the judiciary, freedom from harassment to some extent. So I think in formal democratic processes, it's been a hell of a progress. And at the same time, we've seen more and more the incorporation of women and youth into at least contesting elections, even if they're not yet in a position probably to win major power.
The 2012 election gave us a glimpse into Somaliland's struggle to survive. We saw the energies and desire of the people to see their country flourish. But we also saw just how difficult it is to run a democracy in a place without the resources of developed countries. Despite that, after 2 decades and 7 elections, Somaliland shows us that the undeveloped world is capable of democratic expression. Yet surviving this election does not close the book on Somaliland's story. To succeed, Somaliland's people will have to continue to strive for stronger freedoms at home while continuing to push for recognition as a nation abroad.
We're getting a bit of tolerance, we're becoming a bit civilized. We're improving.
Yeah.
We're not bad people. We're improving. It's good. It's good.